It's a case that too many cooks definitely won't spoil the broth. Instead, kitchens in the Hunter are crying out for apprentice chefs.
There's a shortage of apprentices and there's many more vacancies. We're looking for people who have the necessary desire and really want to learn to be a cook.
The call comes at a time when the state is experiencing a chronic shortage of hospitality workers in the lead up to the Sydney Olympics. The head of the Hospitality Training Network was in Newcastle today, discussing his company's apprentice chef program with local employers. Mr Goldman's encouraging young people to gain experience by working in different kitchens with a variety of chefs.
You have an opportunity to work under different chefs, learn different menus, different styles of cooking, different styles of food.
The Hospitality Network is already overseeing the training of 165 apprentices in the Hunter and plans to recruit more young people from local schools during the next few months. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
It's a club that's on the up and up, East Maitland, and they're looking forward to this tournament with our state bowlers, which boasts around about at least six of our Australian representatives.
Adam McDougall was always going to do a tough to play this weekend. If a foot muscle tear didn't stop him, a high tackle charge would. Eventually it was both. He pleaded guilty to a careless tackle charge after knowing he wouldn't be fit anyway.
It would have been an enormous expenditure of time, energy and everything else when he was not going to be able to play anyway.
But there are a number of injury problems. Matt Gidley's still a concern, while Ben Kennedy will have a fitness test on Friday before he's given the green light to play the Raiders. The back rower desperate to play against his old club following the bitter fallout with senior Canberra officials last year after he signed with Newcastle mid-season.
I don't want emotion to get in the way. I told him today in the gym that I don't want him to put his heart ahead of his head in his return.
Teenager Tamana Tahu comes into the starting side for McDougall in the only change to the backline that played Brisbane. However, Gidley still has to pass fit. Kennedy has been named in the forward pack pending his clearance, while Sean Rudder and Glenn Grief are back on the bench after missing the weekend's clash. For fullback Robbie O'Davis, he comes off a match against the Australian fullback in Darren Lockyer to meet the in-form and one-time Kangaroo number one in Brett Mullins, and he can't wait.
I like playing against the top players in my position, and we pinpointed a few things he gets up to last night in his positional play when he attacks the kicks, etc. And I think we can try to keep him out of the game in that aspect.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Newcastle has a malicious damage rate higher than the state average. Between June and September last year, there were 482 incidents in the inner city alone, 134 assaults, 202 counts of malicious damage and 146 street offences. It's estimated to cost ratepayers $500,000 a year. With that in mind, Council has just released its crime prevention plan. Lord Mayor John Tate says if police numbers aren't boosted across Newcastle, more camera surveillance is needed.
We need to find other means, and I think surveillance cameras are one way of doing that.
One successful council measure to combat crime has been the Night Rider bus, a late-night service ferrying revellers between inner-city clubs and pubs. Trialled at the start of the year at a cost of $30,000, the bus proved a resounding success. Unfortunately, council won't foot the bill again.
We need to draw money from the industry, which would be the licensees of the premises that operate, the insurance industry, because they have less claims, we've demonstrated that, and perhaps the business people.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Be careful with the challenge. McManus. A chance for the Newcastle sides. And the sneaked one. Hold up, Bryson.
This is the golfing equivalent of twiddling your thumbs. And that's what players did at the Newcastle Golf Club today until the rain eased enough to send them out onto the course. But their faces were as long as the course seemed today, with strong winds and driving rain making conditions difficult.
Are you having fun yet? No, I don't know about that. I'm just very wet at the moment. They're obviously going to have frustrations out there, and it's how they deal with those frustrations that I guess says a lot about their character.
After yesterday's opening 18 holes, Western Australia led by a single shot. Today, Queensland took over in the trying conditions to win the 36-hole championship by 22 strokes. They'll now travel to Northern Ireland to defend their World Schools Championship crown. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This will be the very first time racing on Karura River. We're hoping this one will be a success and have it every year from here on in.
Just as they did last year, Edgeworth won the pre-season championship and start the season as the team to beat. But one thing they want to change, a bad finish. The last 2 years they've ended the regular season on top, only to falter in the finals. Launching their 2000 season midweek, the club hopes a new playing strip may help change the team's fortunes. The Eagles start their season against Belmont Swansea under lights at Blacksmiths. The first game for the year is also under lights tomorrow night at Maitland, while the traditional grudge match between Olympic and Broadmeadow Magic on Sunday highlights the opening round. Round 2 of the Konami Pre-Season Rugby League Challenge starts tomorrow with rain washing out 2 games at Maitland. All Newcastle teams will be without representative players who will play Illawarra in a trial game tomorrow at Dapto. However, former Western Suburbs coach Tommy Radonicus isn't too worried he was overlooked for the New South Wales coaching origin job.
I always have a go, you know, but the only thing I miss about coaching at the moment is the money.
The former Western Newtown great was in Newcastle today at the Knights Excalibur Club lunch and rates Newcastle as one of the teams to beat. However, he also believes the Broncos may have a surprise in store later in the year.
Speaking to Alfie Lang on the phone the other night, he rang me from England and you never know, he could be back with the Broncos when he finishes his little stint over there.
Things are hotting up at the Wetlands Centre. It's trialling 6 different types of chilli, using various planting methods in a bid to establish the best ways of growing the spicy product.
Once they're established, they're relatively easy to grow. There's not a lot of maintenance required there, a little bit of mulching occasionally, and they don't require much moisture, as I said.
Although it's highly labour intensive, the financial benefits of chilli farming are favourable. A 600 square metre plot like this one can earn a producer up to $10,000, especially if they consider value adding.
Farmers should be getting smarter and looking at value adding of all their crops, whether it's the beef market to the plate, whether it's the chilies or the crops that they're growing to the end market. It's a really important part.
The University of Newcastle hopes to get involved in the trial project to research the medicinal qualities of the plant. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
No big splash like the old days, but it was stirring stuff as the 4th Huon-class minehunter slowly slipped into the harbour. but history was still a big part of the launch. The Gascoigne was formerly a World War II frigate. As a teenager, Norm Deacon Bell served on board that ship as kamikazes attacked in the Philippines. He couldn't hide his pride when he saw the reincarnated minehunter leave the slipway.
It just means a continuation of what we had before. It's a complete difference, of course, but it's just something, it's just part of us still. Yeah.
The Gascoigne is part of a $1 billion contract signed in 1994. 2 other mine hunters have been commissioned. The third is currently undergoing sea trials, while there are still 2 more to be completed.
Yes, very happy so far. You know, it's a project which is in budget, in time, and I think the customer is happy with us, so I'm happy.
David McElwain, NBN News. The Hunter Breast Foundation believes it is one delay after another when it comes to building a breast cancer and melanoma unit alongside the Mater Hospital. $5 million is being held in trust to build it, but the only thing on the vacant block is a couple of tents.
I don't quite understand why, because everything is there for it to start. Finances, block of land, plans have been approved and so forth.
The 2nd of June is the cut-off date for organisations to submit their partnership proposals as the Mater continues its search for a not-for-profit partner. Virginia Rigby from the Hunter Breast Cancer Foundation says that shouldn't make a difference to turning the first sod.
We would really like to know what priority is placed on the Mater Institute in these documents that have gone out for expressions for interest.
Danny Beasley on Miss Penny Money pocketed the lion's share of $500,000 ahead of Blackbean and Falvalon. And in Sydney, our best, the Group 2 Apollo Stakes. Sunline hanging on to beat Adam and a fast finishing higher, the trifecta $53.10.
It's a novel way of visiting the local pub for a few ales. And aside from beating the RBT unit, it's also a good way to enjoy the sights and sounds of Newcastle at a more relaxed pace than usual. Peter Wright is the man behind this tour, drawing on his 13 years' experience running a similar venture in the Hunter Vineyards.
What we're doing is really a tour of Newcastle, like the foreshore and the beaches, but what we're doing is stopping at the pubs, so we're going to 5 of the best pubs in Newcastle.
Peter Wright believes his tours will fill a gap in tourist activities in the region.
No one's ever done a tour like this in Australia. So it's a full-day horse carriage tour of pubs. They've got some riding tours of pubs out in the country, but I don't know of anyone in the city that's tried a full day's tour of pubs.
Tours will run every weekend. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News. For compulsive gamblers, this research could become the luckiest roll of the dice in the fight to kick this addictive illness. Around 3% of adult Australians experience gambling problems, affecting not only their financial and emotional well-being, but those of their families.
People who have this problem, they can't stop. They lose everything, and it's a huge problem.
Compulsive gambling is thought to be associated with low levels of serotonin in the brain, a chemical which helps nerve cells communicate with each other. Researchers believe measuring the eye blink response to stimulus may be a way to diagnose this disorder.
The eye blink response is modulated by so-called neurotransmitters in the brain. These are chemicals which are important for communication between nerve cells.
Currently, diagnosis is based on assessing a person's symptoms characterised by obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviour. Researchers hope this new study may help them come up with new methods to identify people at risk and new ways to treat them.
It might be possible, if we can prove that there is this biological background, that medication could improve our treatment.
Results from the study should be known by the end of the year. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
They may not have been loud, but their message was clear. Residents from caravan parks angry about the potential impact of a GST on their park fees.
It's very discriminatory and it's going to have a big impact on your lifestyle.
The member for Shortland speaking on behalf of the 4,000 caravan or mobile home residents in her own Hunter Valley electorate. Shadow Community Services Minister Wayne Swan went further.
You've really got to ask the question, what sort of a country do we live in? What sort of a social coalition is it? That if you rent a house at Kirribilli, there's no GST on your rent. But if you rent a mobile home where you live in a caravan park on the Tweed or Port Stephens or the Central Coast, the GST is applied to your rent.
There are close to 160,000 park residents across the country, 50,000 alone in New South Wales, a good share of which live on the coast between Gosford and the Tweed. There'll be little chance of a reprieve for these residents, with park owners offered little choice but to pass on the cost of the new tax to them, and it's unlikely they'll hold back.
But if they don't apply it, then they won't be able to claim their input taxes back, so they'll be penalised. So of course they all are. But residents aren't being given a choice.
Already more protest action is scheduled with meetings in Kalgoorlie and Budgewoi in the coming weeks. Matt Carden, NBN News.
Another example of what I saw as
Pam Morton was first alerted to the drama when she heard a loud thud next door.
We heard this great big crash and someone yelled for us to get out of the house, so we did just that and we've been staying out of the house ever since.
Apparently, 2 tilers were taking a lunch break when seconds later the building behind them collapsed. Neighbours were told to evacuate their homes, amazed that no one was injured.
These guys were just lucky that they weren't actually on the roof at the time because, yes, they would have been injured.
Workcover officials have been called in to investigate the incident, with inquiries expected to focus on the builder's role in the collapse. Residents have been told they can't re-enter their homes until they're properly secured by the SES. Lake Macquarie Council has also been called in to investigate. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
The MG movement itself is probably the biggest movement within the country.
hopefully I can maintain that, but usually what happens, I'll come to a dead end and I can't sort of push myself any faster, and everyone else will just catch up come Sunday.